I'm noticing more and more that some of the spots in my hair that I thought were empty or blank spots are actually pretty good sized patches of white hair. Hey Booktube, it's Kim at Middle of the Bookmarch, and this is my Bookish week for Sunday, December 29th. Couple more days, and it's the new year. I never make New Year's resolutions. It's, you know, life is pressured enough. Why put extra pressure on yourself like that? I never do it. And when I was much younger, maybe I tried, but no, what's the point now? What's the point? I don't want to set numbers goals for myself. I don't want to give myself resolutions that are just, it's too fraught with potential to let myself down. Why would I do that? I'm going to set myself up for success. So, it was a pretty light reading week this week. I actually had 2 DNFs, and that knocked a couple books off my list, but I still have 4. I think I have 4 ongoing. And I'm not really finishing a lot lately because I have some long-term projects and books that I may have finished that I can't talk about yet because they're part of a group or a buddy read or my book club. And I've picked up a couple of books that I'm reading just for my own satisfaction. So we'll see if I get those finished by next weekend. But not to worry, I'm still having fun doing my reading. I'm having fun DNFing, and so let's get to it. I continue to read Invisible Man by Ralph Ellison with Gareth from Book Songs and Other Magic. And I hope I'm allowed to say this, but stay tuned later today on Gareth's channel, and if you're not subscribed, follow the link in the description below to subscribe, because there will be a special presentation on his channel, I'm hoping, and I'm confident because Gareth has done this many, many times. So Invisible Man with Gareth, and I am continuing to read Fire in the City, Savonarola, and the Struggle for the Soul of Renaissance Florence by Laurel Martins, and I am reading this one with Joe Smith. This is a nonfiction book about the life, a fairly brief book about the life of Savonarola, the friar of Florence, who plays a major part in the novel Romola by George Eliot, which Joe and I are going to read next year. I am listening to an audiobook. Oh gosh, what is the title? I totally blanked on the title, and it is a memoir from Lisa Marie Presley. So there'll be a picture here. I'm listening to the audio, and it's narrated by Julia Roberts and Riley Keough, who is Lisa Marie Presley's oldest daughter. And Presley died a few years ago. And I felt like, well, I need an audiobook, and memoirs work pretty well for me on audio, so I picked it, and it's really interesting so far. There are snippets of Lisa Marie's actual recordings peppered throughout the audiobook. So it's it's interesting because she had a very distinctive low tone to her voice. So when there are those pieces of audio that are her actually speaking on her recordings, it's just really fascinating to me. So yeah, I'm listening to that one. Now, I had 2 DNFs. And I'm pretty sure these are actual DNFs because I got 50% through each of these books. 50%. So I think I deserve to say that I read plenty to determine whether they should be DNFs or not. And one of the books is a DNF where I thought maybe I will still pick that up. Maybe I'll finish it. But I just, if you're not a person who DNFs a book, does not finish, officially does not finish, but you read everything, you complete everything, I don't know how you do it. It's too much. There are too many other books to read. And I don't believe in subjecting myself to a bad book or a book that I've pushed myself to pick up. If I'm not looking forward to picking it up, I'm not going to finish it. And if I keep replacing it with something else to read, then why am I trying to continue? My only exception to that are buddy reads or group reads that I really want to be involved in with the conversation. And there are buddy reads that I have DNF'd books. And, you know, I'm reading this book with Joe, and Joe and I have done buddy reads in the past where I've DNF'd a book 50% of the way through. And group reads, if I'm reading a book, I think I will most often finish them, but only if it's a pretty short book. Because I really do want to be part of the conversation for a book that I've picked up. But these two, nah, I couldn't do it anymore. Neither one of, I couldn't, let's just get into it. I'll tell you why. This one, Any Human Power by Amanda Scott. This is a book that was sent to me by a publisher, a book publicity company. This is the second book that I've received from them to read and review. And this one started off really strong. It started off strong. There are some exceptionally beautiful passages in this book. And it's so weird. It's very weird. I'm just going to read one paragraph because this is not a Kim book, but it may be for you. This is one of the passages very early on page 23. I wanted to fly. I wanted to revel in the ripe flavors of rain and the bliss of a month-old rabbit carcass I could scent halfway up the hill. A different part of me wanted to slide down the wind to the farmhouse far, far below us, to explore the chunky flint and Tudor pan tiles of its roof and the mosaic of moss and crannies from which a probing beak might winkle out spiders, centipedes, larvae of nameless taste-filled life. I don't know how you feel about bugs and larvae, but there's several really beautifully written passages. However, the story and the concept of this book is not for me. It is a book about death and what comes after we die. It is a book about computer networking and gaming. It's a book about social consciousness and political action. It's a book about youth, and it's a lot of things. It's a real lot of things. And it's very spiritual as well. It was so much. It was not too hard to understand. It was just too ethereal for me, too all over the place. I just don't really have that high of an interest in gaming or computers or any of that type of stuff. There was a lot of really weird concepts about what happens to us after we die, about different realms and different voids in the universe, and a lot of stuff. There was a lot of alternate paths that the plot took, and I just did not like that. I don't mind it when it happens towards the end of a book, but this one was interwoven within the middle of a book. And I don't even know if I'm making any sense with what this book is about. There's a woman named Alana who's dying. She makes a promise that binds her into the beyond. And her family surrounds her when she's dying. And she makes a promise to her grandson that she will be available to him if he calls on her. And she wasn't supposed to make that promise. So after she dies, she's stuck between worlds. That's one of the plot lines. The other plot line is that same grandson is a gamer who becomes kind of a professional online gamer. And there's a bunch of computer, I don't even know how to describe it. Anybody who games knows what I'm talking about. The online, the live gaming, so the communication between gamers and hacking and all kinds of other stuff, and how that corresponds to Alana being called on to help her family in some way. She's kind of still involved in the family and trying to stay in contact with people who can communicate with her after her death. There's, I don't know, there's a bunch of stuff, and it's too crazy for me. I wouldn't say magical realism, maybe some magical realism, and I like some in a book, but this is just drowning in it. And this this could be really interesting for a lot of people, but unfortunately this book was just not for me. So I did give it up after about 50%. And too bad, because I thought it was going to be a really wild ride, a really unique read for me, and it was. It was just not something that I wanted to finish. Now, this one. This is a huge book. This is over 950 pages. And it's for my book group. If anybody from the Critical Chicks is watching and you don't want to hear what I have to say about this book, don't keep watching. But I am going to talk about it. So, all right, I gave you your warning. This is Familiaris by David Wroblewski. He is the author of the story of Edgar Sawtelle. Familiaris is the prequel to Edgar Sawtelle. So it's telling us the story of the family before Edgar Sawtelle was born. And this was just published. It's a brand new publication, published in 2024, this year. And Edgar Sawtelle was published in 2008, so this is 16 years later. It is long and chunky. I got through half of it and said, nope, no. Why did I do that? Why did I get this far? Because I was intent on finishing this book for my book group in order to talk about it, but I was bored out of my mind with this book. I did not care about so many of these characters. There were characters that were introduced that meant nothing because what I've done is I have since read other reviews and I've since read the conclusion of the book. And there are characters that don't really play a lot more into the plot. He goes on and on and on and on and on certain chapters. And if I had to hear the term, the Kissel, one more time, I was going to puke. The Kissel is the name of this car that he drove. And it is the story of John and Mary, who, John Sawtelle and his wife Mary, who are the patriarch and matriarch of the Sawtelle family that later becomes the story of Edgar Sawtelle. Blah, 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 blah. I was just so bored. I was aggravated. The writing was nothing special. Edgar Sawtelle was different. It was really pretty and thought-provoking. I loved reading about the dogs. The whole book of Edgar Sawtelle is about dogs. And this one I think is supposed to be. There's one right there. But it just does not get too deep into dogs, even through half of the book. It's way too bloated. He's so long-winded, and the writing is just not compelling enough to have kept me reading this entire book. This is a really good example of a DNF that I've done if I'm reading our book club book. And after we've been meeting for 24 years, almost 24 years, and after 24 years, the rest of my book club knows, I'm in danger of DNFing all the time. I would never complete this book now because it's too long, it's too bloated, and I just did not enjoy it. So unfortunately, that is the review of Familiaris. I don't usually give these negative feedbacks for a book that I did not finish, but I did read other reviews of the book, and too many of them were the same as mine. I did not feel bad for deserting it. And let's see. I already told you about the three other books I'm currently reading. There's one more. I started this. This is a reread, and this is Wicked by Gregory Maguire. Oh, I am so happy to have picked this up. I'm reading this purely for myself. And this is the naked hardback. I took the dust jacket off to read it more easily. And it is just such a pretty book. I love this artwork. Love it. And I've discovered something wild in this book. This Wicked was published in, it was published in 1995. So it's almost a 30-year-old publication. On page 41 of this book, let me make sure, here it is. If you've read Wicked, it's a much darker story than the movie or the musical. This is not appropriate for younger children to read, just simply because it's a retelling of The Wizard of Oz, And if you've seen the movie is wonderful, but it is much darker than that. Don't let your kids read this book, people. But on page 41 of the book, okay, I keep going over myself. There are 4 different main religions in the land of Oz, and one of them, I wish I could remember the name of it. There's kind of like this mechanical clock, and I can't find the name. There's a mechanical clock that kind of is being brought around the villages and the towns as kind of this twisted entertainment. And it is depraved and sexual in nature and lustful. It's kind of a pleasure utopia of entertainment, and it goes against everything that this ministry in this land of Oz, this partial land of Oz, is working towards. And it's supposedly a magical clock face with a dragon on top. But the name of the religion is TikTokism. TikTok, TikTok, TikTokism. I went ballistic when I read that term, TikTokism. TikTok. This platform must have come from this book, this concept. Even though it originated in China, it must have come from this. I am dying to find out if that in fact is where the TikTok platform name came from. Instant gratification, pleasure seeking, constant stimulation. That's the religion of TikTokism in this book. And how else to describe the TikTok platform? It blew me away. So if anybody has that background, I would love to hear it. That is it for me for this week. Let me know in the comments below what you think about any of the books I showed you, and if you have any insight into TikTokism from Wicked by Gregory Maguire, I would love to hear it. And I will see you all in the next video. Bye, everybody.